What's up, guys? Today we are doing the Windows fundamentals. All right, first off, I want to say thank you guys so much for the support. We're still killing it. If you guys do like the content, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment below. Hit that bell notification. It's all very important. I know we say it every video, but it honestly is. It's the only way that we can keep growing and the only way that we can keep supporting doing this as much as I do. So let's go ahead and dive into it. Now, I will have a disclaimer on this. This is extremely simple. If you guys are familiar with Windows decently, even a little bit, go ahead and skip this video. I hate to say that because I want everyone to watch these videos. I will describe some stuff, but this is a very simple box. I'm going to try to at least get one more out this week than normal because of how simple this box is, but we will still do it. So first things first, this is just how to remote desktop in if you want to. I'm not going to. I don't need to because I actually went through it and looked at starting the box and then going through, and there's really no need to even do that. They have screenshots of everything, so we'll just go ahead and do it that way. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right. So this is a little bit of history with the Windows operating system. It dates back to 1985 and is the dominant operating system in home use and corporate. Now, I will tell you that is probably a little outdated. Linux is there for a while, was taking back over, and is pretty even now from my understanding. So it's kind of 50-50 what you're going to run into. Now, it's definitely the home use, I would say, dominating operating system. I wouldn't say necessarily corporate networks because there's a lot of Linux servers out there. Now, so some of you guys are younger, probably never used Windows XP and stuff like that. Windows XP was a popular version of Windows. Long running, Microsoft announced Windows Vista, which was a complete overhaul, and that's where Windows ran into a lot of issues. All right, so it's quickly phased out. Same with the Windows 7 here. So when Microsoft announced end of life, Windows XP, blah, 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 people panicked. Windows 7 came out. Vendors had to work against the clock to ensure their products worked with Windows 7 for their customers. So this is what happens when new operating systems announce this way, is if, especially Windows, because they usually force you to eventually switch. So Windows 11 just came out. I haven't switched to it yet. I'd like not to. Nothing against them, but as long as they're going to support Windows 10, I like Windows 10. I'm familiar with Windows 10, and it has the features I need. Now, when Windows 11 came out, the problem is you can't just go updating systems without testing it, because let's say you have 1,000 employees all running on one web server that you're hosting, and it's got everything they need there, and you upgrade it to Windows 11, and all of a sudden it breaks. Right now, you got 1,000 employees sitting there on their butts. You can't have that. So that's what happens when they upgrade. You got to really take into consideration when you're testing these things what can happen. All right. So I'm not going to read all this. You guys can read it. But basically, Microsoft will continue to support at least one Windows 10 semi-annual channel until October 14th, 2025. So it tells you right there they're going to support Windows 10 for a while. But Windows 11 will eventually take over. So what encryption can you enable on Pro that you can't in Home? And that's BitLocker. If you guys aren't familiar with BitLocker, it's pretty simple. It's a full disk encryption, so it encrypts the whole hard drive. If, let's say, someone stole your computer or something like that, BitLocker will require that you type a long password in to basically decrypt that hard drive and make sure that nobody gets whatever data is on there. So it's pretty simple, pretty easy to understand. It just encrypts the hard drive so nobody can access the information. All right, so the desktop GUI. So on Windows, we've all seen this desktop GUI. This is what it looks like by default if you don't change the background image. So this is, this is the desktop. We're going to cover the desktop start menu search box, which is Cortana. I hate that thing. That's the only thing I don't like is the Cortana part. All right, so the desktop, you guys have all seen a desktop. This is a desktop. You've all seen it. It's pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. All right, so I'm not going to open the box. You can see here they're doing the screenshots. They wanted me to follow exactly what they're doing, and they're actually presenting pictures, so there's no need for me to follow. So you would go to right-click on the desktop, go to display settings, and this is where you can actually start changing the displays. You can change the monitors, you can change the background image, the scale, the layouts, all this stuff can be changed here. The start menu, you guys have all seen when you click on the start menu, it's going to give you different options. It's going to usually give you kind of what you use typically. It knows, and it's going to give you that up front. And then from here, Windows Server is a little different. You're going to get Server Manager, PowerShell, that type of stuff. So let's keep going to the Start menu. And here you can search. So that's a big thing because that's pretty much what most people do, right? When you have something, you just go here, click it, and you search, and then you find it. You don't have to, like, for instance, if I was going to go to Control Panel, I'm not going to go through, click on the Start menu, look for Control Panel. I'm just going to search, click, or type Control, and click on Control Panel. So this is the recently added program. So if you just install a program or something, it's going to pop up right there so that you can see it pretty quick, pretty easy. Let's see. In your VM, Google Chrome will not show up as a recently added program anymore. If you have a long list of installed apps, you can jump to a particular section in the list by clicking the letter. So again, when you're searching, you can jump to a particular letter. If you have a bunch of folders, it will do it. This is how it'll look, but we don't have that, and we're not worried about that. All right. The right side of the Start menu is where you're going to find icons. So those are the icons. They look like they're just little pictures that kind of describe what you're looking at. Like a File Explorer, it looks like a little file. You can right click it. You can change settings on it. You can go to More and click Settings. They're showing that you can pin to start, which will then pin it down here. Or no, I'm sorry. The pin to start will pin it right here. This is the taskbar. You have to pin to taskbar. So now we're jumping right into taskbar. And I'm trying to go through this fast because most of you guys have seen Windows before, and this is very basic, just getting around Windows. You've done that. So the taskbar here shows running apps and apps that you can pin to the taskbar, and then you can click on them that way. There's notifications on the taskbar. This will tell you, like if Windows Defender says, hey, something's not right, you can, my dogs never come in here until I start talking. So the taskbar can give you notifications, which will tell you like, hey, Windows needs an update, or hey, this is turned off, or something like that. So which selection will disable the search bar? And that is hidden selection. So you can go through there and you can hide the actual search bar if you want. Which selection will disable the task view button? And that's the show task view button. So when you click that show task view button, it'll hide or re-enable it so that you can see it. Besides clock and network, what other icon is visible in the notification area? So this is on the actual box they're asking. I don't have it started up because it's not worth the time. And that is Action Center. So that's the other icon visible. You can check that out. It's pretty simple. Okay, so here we're kind of diving into a little bit of complexity, I would say. It's not complex at all, but they're at least getting out of the GUI interface. So this is the file system. It's NTFS, New Technology File System. It replaced the FAT file system. Now, FAT is still in use, and so is High Performance File System in USB drives, micro SD cards, stuff like that. That's how it's able to be used. Now, I will say, here's the difference. NTFS is known as journaling file system. In case of a failure, the file system can repair the files and folders using logs or log file, right? The old ones, FAT, can't do that. So that's the big difference. That's why if you ever had a USB drive and it gets corrupt, it's corrupt. But NTFS can repair. You can see this little animation here. They're showing you how you check. So you go to File Explorer, this PC, and local seed properties, and then it'll show you right there. The file system is NTFS. So that's how you can check what file system you're using. You should be using NTFS on Windows. Now, here's the permissions on files. You have full control, which is exactly what it sounds like, full control. Then you have modify. It permits reading and writing of files and subfolders. So that's big, and subfolders. That's key. And allows deletion of the folder. Now, listing folder contents permits viewing and listing of files and subfolders, as well as executing files. Perfect. So now read and execute permits viewing and listing of files and subfolders, as well as executing of files. Okay, now you have write permissions and read permissions, which are exactly what they sound like. You can write to a file and folder, or you can read a file and folder, but you can't write to it, etc., etc. So right-click the file or folder you want to check for permissions, select Properties, go to the Security tab, and you're going to see what groups have access. And then when you click on whatever group, it'll show you they have read and execute, they have list folder, they have read, etc. And some of them will tell you they have inherit permissions, inherited by folders only. So when you inherit something, it's, let's say you have a folder and you create a subfolder, so you create a folder inside that folder, it will inherit the permissions typically of the parent folder. So if you have a Try Hack Me group and that group has permission to read that folder only, and then you create a subfolder in that folder, it will inherit that. So now Try Hack Me has read permissions of that subfolder. All right. So here's another feature of NTFS, alternate data streams. So this is an attribute specific to NTFS. Every file has one data stream, okay? And ADS, or alternate data streams, allows files to contain more than one data stream. So natively, Windows doesn't display the alternative, but it's alternate data stream. There are third-party executables that can view this, but PowerShell gives you the ability to view it as well. So from a security perspective, that's dangerous because that means you have the data stream that you're viewing, and then you have data stream that you don't see. So there's an alternate data stream. That's scary because, like it says here, not all its uses are malicious. For example, when you dial a file from the internet, there are identifiers that are in the ADS to tell you that that file was downloaded from the internet. That's good information. The problem is if you can send alternate data stream without us seeing it, we don't know what you're sending, right? If the file is coming from someone else or something like that, that's why it's so dangerous to run executables on Windows from unsecure or untrusted sources. All right, if you wish to interact with hands-on ADS, there's the advent of Cyber 2, and that'll show you. So now, what is the meaning of NTFS? New Technology File System. Okay, let's go ahead and hop right into it. The Windows System 32 folders. So the Windows folder C Windows is traditionally known as folder which contains the Windows operating system. So on a general install, meaning just the normal install, C Windows will contain the files that are used to run the operating system. So that's just a heads up. It doesn't have to be that way. You can move them if you want. It says here that will be the %win_dir percent will be the system environment variable. So let's say you install it in a different folder. You don't install it in C Windows. Well, that will always take you back to wherever the Windows operating system is running from. All right. And that's a variable. So one of the many folders in System 32 is one of the many folders in the Windows system. Excuse me. System 32 holds the important files. So these are the critical files. These are the files that you have to know what you're doing, or else you could really risk deleting, messing with, and then making your operating system just not work anymore. So keep that in mind. This is the important files. These are the big ones. So now, what is the system variable for Windows folder? We've got Windows dir, windir, %win_dir. All right. Now, if you guys don't know what that means, you can open up your File Explorer, type in a location. You can just type %win_dir, enter, and it'll take you to whatever directory is where the operating system is running from. Okay, so now we're at user accounts, profiles, and permissions. So there's two types of main users in local Windows systems, admin and standard. So I want to set one thing straight. This is separate. I think the next box we're doing is Active Directory, which is important. This is separate from any networking. What I mean by that is, let's say you log in at work, right? When you log in at work, you might use your work email or you might use a work account. Well, the computer that you're using is allowing you to log in through a network, meaning you're authenticating to their probably Active Directory, most likely. So you're authenticating to them and saying, hey, here's my credentials. And they're saying, okay, those credentials are good, let them in. Okay. A local account is totally different from that. A local account is what you would have on your personal computer or something. You could take that computer, you could disconnect all the cables from it, all the internet, wireless, all that stuff, go put it in a locked room with no access outside, and you could log in using that whatever account. That's a local account, meaning it's local to that machine. It only sits on that machine. You can't log into other machines with it. It's usually used for default setup, admin, backdoor access, that type of thing. It's a local account, and that's the only thing it's used for. So that's what we're talking about here, and it's important that we know that because they're going to talk about permissions. Permissions are set on local accounts differently than they're set on Active Directory. So now, one way is to click Start menu, type Other Users. So they're showing you there's the other users. You click it, it'll take you to it. And it says add someone else to this PC. They blurred it out because you have to go on the box to actually see the account, but it will show it here. So since you're the admin, you can see the option to add someone else to the box. So you can actually make extra accounts on the box if you wanted to. You could change the account type. So when you change the account type, there's a drop-down menu. You click it, it'll say standard or admin user. That's it. Now, the admin user, there's one thing that's cool, and I think they're going to talk about it here in a sec that I'll explain more about the admin user. All right, so the creation of the user's profile is done upon initial login. So the first time, if you've ever worked somewhere new or done something, the first time you log onto a machine, it usually takes a while longer than it does every time after that. That's because it's creating your profile on that machine, like your directory and your home directory and stuff like that, like this, see users max. It's creating all that for you at that time. Okay, so now each user profile will have the same folders. A few of them are desktop, documents, downloads, music, pictures. So again, that's pretty simple. All right, so now here, this is another way. Now, I'll tell you, some home editions of Windows don't have user manager. That's what this is. Local user manager.msc. lusrmgr.msc. When you type that, it pops up and you're going to see the screenshot of it. And there it is. You notice it says users and groups. All right. So you guys can go mess with that if you want. But what it's going to show you is all the users on the box, all the groups on the box that are created, and then you can go ahead and change them. So for instance, you could go into the local users and groups, create a group called, test, whatever you want to name it. Give it only permissions that you want it to have. Assign that to an account, and then log in that account and see, look, oh, they took away my taskbar. They don't let me shut the computer down. There's all kinds of things you can do where you can limit someone. So what some people will do will allow you can't shut the computer down. Now, the reason for that is because let's say a hacker gets into our network and gets into the computer. Okay? Well, without physically being there, without pushing the button on the machine, he can't turn that computer off. Why? Because that means he can't delete the information that's in the RAM of what he did. Okay? Now, there's ways he could delete it, right? Obviously, he could delete it. But my point is, it's a way to make sure that computer stays on for forensics investigations and things like that. That's just one security feature. I'm not saying that's the end all be all. I'm just saying there's millions that you can add on there. All right, so what's the name of the other user account? It's Try Hack Me Billy. What's the group? What groups is he a member of? So you just right-click properties on his name, and you get remote desktop, users, and then users. Those are the two groups he's a member of. What built-in account is used for guest access? It's literally called guest, and the account is disabled as it should be. So keep that in mind, guys. The local admin account should always be disabled. Now, one thing I want to talk to you guys about real quick is Manscaped. You guys know I use it. I love the Lawnmower 4.0, and you guys know that I love Manscaped. So Manscaped is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Their products are precision-engineered tools for family jewels. We've talked about this. The Manscaped Performance Package is the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. It comes with the lawnmower, the bag, boxers, ball deodorant. It comes with everything you need, guys. I'm telling you, it comes with the actual nose hair trimmer, which I opened the other day. It's in the bathroom. Otherwise, I would show it to you guys. And these things are awesome. I actually have two of these because they sent me one, and I already bought one because I love this thing. That's why I asked them, hey, what we need to work together because you're one of the few products that I actually believe in. So keep that in mind. When you guys use code Stuffy24, not only do you get great products that you can use, obviously, you get free shipping. That's huge because if you order the deluxe package, it comes in like a it's like a box, and they have extra stuff. They have like newspaper and stuff that's pretty cool. It's like a manual for it's pretty cool. It's actually impressive. And then, so that shipping alone is going to save you some money. And then on top of that, you're going to get 20% off on everything you order. It's kind of a no-brainer, guys. I definitely recommend using it. Go to manscaped.com/Stuffy24 or Stuffy24 at checkout, and you guys will be set to go. You can order everything you want, and you'll be ready for a fun night. You know what I'm saying? All right. So let's go ahead and hop back into user account control. So this is basically what I was about to talk about earlier, and I realized it was coming later. Okay, so to protect local user with such privileges, Microsoft User Account Control. So what is User Account Control? Pretty much what it is you can see here, if you open up Wireshark, the admin has access to it to install it here, but there's no access if you're a local user. Now, what does this tell us? A couple things. One, you have to be an admin to install stuff. That's great. That's good security practice. But two, if you go and try to add it as a regular user, it's going to ask you for the admin password, right? So it's going to pop up with an admin account, almost like when you sudo something on Linux. It's going to pop up with the admin account. You're going to type the password in. Okay, so that's a good protection. Now, what happens if you try to do something that needs admin rights as when you're logged in as admin? It's going to pop up and ask you to click yes, like you want to do this. Now, why does it do this? Because that way you can't have stuff running without you knowing it that needs admin access. So user account control is a really good tool where what it does is even though you log in as local admin or as the admin, you're not running on elevated privileges. So if someone does take over the machine or take over the box or whatever is going on, they don't automatically have those admin privileges. So it's actually a really good tool. All right, so they're telling you here you can create a new account. They want you to create a new account or log into the other account. And you'll notice when you log in as a local user, it's got this little shield on it instead of that down arrow. That means you need admin privileges to run it. So if you see that little that shield on your computer, it means you have to have admin privileges to run that tool. Okay, so what does UAC mean? User account control. It's a security feature, helps out a ton. Okay. Settings and control panel. What's the difference? So this is Windows settings. This is control panel. So if you remember if you guys are old enough, back in the day, everything was control panel. There was no Windows settings. Now they have the settings, which is sometimes more confusing, but also kind of breaks it out in a more simple manner. But basically, there's a couple things you can do. You can go to settings, you can go to control panel, or you can actually go and just search whatever you're looking for in the search bar down here, and you can find it. Now, you can see here, it says you're connected to the internet. Well, now you can go to change connection properties, change adapter options, and then you notice now it pops open the control panel for you, even though that was in the settings menu. So they have different settings in them. They're still both in use, but keep in mind, when you're looking for something, you can search for it. You can go to the settings and get to it, and then it may open the control panel for you. They're just trying to show you that, hey, they are two separate things, and sometimes they interact with each other. And some people get a little confused by it because they think, well, the control panel should have everything, but some things have been changed to Windows settings. All right. And here they're just talking about changing the background images and stuff like that, which you can just do by right-clicking on your desktop and saying display settings. Okay, and the control panel changes the view to small icons. What is the last setting in the control panel view? So if you go to control panel view, the last setting is the Windows Defender firewall setting. All right, and that's important because you should know how to change that because it should be on. So if that's ever off, you need to check it out unless you are working for a company or something that purposely has it turned off because they use their own software. Okay, last subject that will be touched in this module is Task Manager. This is important. Task Manager, you right-click on your taskbar, Task Manager. Now, when you open up Task Manager, it's going to show all these running apps. These are the apps that are running basically under your name. And then if you click on the more details or the, I think it's more tasks or something. But either way, if you click on it, it's going to show everything running on that computer, everything. Even tasks that you are running like this, background processes, meaning that you're not even seeing them. So this is where you can start looking for people taking over machines. Let's say you're like, hey, my computer's running really slow. I don't know what's going on. And you go through here, and one of the background processes, like, let's say it just says Windows Notepad or something, right? But it's using 70% of your memory. That thing might be doing something you don't know about, right? Because that task that Windows Notepad or Notepad plus or whatever doesn't take up that much memory. So something's going on. So that's where you start to investigate. That's where you're going to start looking. So what is the keyboard shortcut to open Task Manager? That is Control-Shift-Escape. All right, guys. So that's it. You guys, each one of these had a separate thing, a separate blog or something where you could dive into a lot of detail if you wanted to. But most of you probably know how to use Windows. I didn't want to spend a lot of time on this because I want to make sure we get every box done. So that way people that maybe don't know Windows, maybe they grew up using Linux, maybe they didn't have a computer growing up, they still get the experience, they still get the exposure, and they can still mess around with it and understand it. But those of us that have used Windows before and are familiar with Windows, we don't necessarily need this box. So I wanted to make sure that it's one of those boxes I cover, but it doesn't take up a bunch of our time and effort. So hopefully you guys understand. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And hopefully you guys like, subscribe, and comment below what your guys' favorite video is so far. So I appreciate you guys, and you guys have a good one.